Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., Minister of Labor and Social Security, Minister of State in the Ministry at the... Ladies and gentlemen in the room, and those of you joining us online and across the airwaves, welcome to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security Disaster Response Press Conference. I'm Paula Ann Porter-Jones, and we'd like to thank you for joining us as we work through what has been happening and what will be happening with respect to the ministry over the past several days. As you know, families across Jamaica have faced immense difficulties following Hurricane Melissa. So the ministry has been working around the clock to provide immediate relief, especially to the elderly, persons with disabilities, single parents, and low-income households. Now, as the People's Ministry, our responsibility is clear. The goal is that no one will be left behind. Every household that needs support must be reached. Every vulnerable person must be accounted for. So we're working in close coordination with the relevant national agencies so that the right support reaches the right people at the right times. Our approach is structured, transparent, and it's designed to ensure fairness across all the affected parishes. At the center of this response is the dignity of every Jamaican navigating this period. So this morning's briefing will outline where the work stands, what continues today, and how the ministry is supporting the people who need that help most right now. Before we begin the update, I want to note that Minister Charles has actually been active on the ground from the moment it was safe to move. He's visited the affected areas, and he's worked with parish teams and partner agencies to ensure that immediate relief has been delivered where it was needed. So his leadership has been a practical, visible one. It's been focused on results, on strengthening the ministry's mandate as the people's ministry, committed to leaving no one behind. So, at this time, please help me to welcome the Honorable Minister of Labor and Social Security, Honorable Pernell Charles Jr., to the lectern.
Thank you so much, Paula. Good morning to everyone. Acknowledgements, of course, to Minister Williams, Permanent Secretary, all of our partners from the JDF, the private sector, the World Food Program, the Food for the Poor, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and everybody who is here, particularly the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, and the media. Now, our Prime Minister, and I hope that everyone heard him yesterday, give a very extensive and comprehensive report on most of the relevant matters relating to our recovery and relief post-Hurricane Melissa. And today, we want to thank everyone who has been involved in this process, ADPEM, OPM, all across government, all of the citizens who have jumped in, community members, church members, everyone, because this is the time when the entire country must come together. We hear of it, but this is it in actuality. So today we want to provide a clear update on where the Ministry of Labor and Social Security is in terms of the work that we are doing, collaborating across government, ministries, departments, agencies, the private sector to advance the national humanitarian response for the families across the island. And I want to start by recognizing that if we are to effectively work and to achieve the collective goals, we must have sufficient boots on the ground. I think we can all agree that that is important. As such, we have to recognize that in our own ministry, we have more than 100 of our team members that have been significantly impacted by this hurricane. At least 8 that have lost everything. When I say everything, I mean the entire house and its contents. And what's remarkable is in my own visit to St. James, to Westmoreland, they were still working for this country, serving the people, despite their own circumstances. The team members among that more than 100 are primarily those who are called upon as first responders. And so we can agree that the work required to serve this nation and to serve the most vulnerable citizens requires us also to take care of the team members who have been affected. To this end, the ministry has established an oversight committee to coordinate all of the staff welfare activities and to ensure that our interventions are transparent, fair, responsive to the individual needs, and I'm certain that the entire country will agree that that is critical. For some time, I must tell you, it was difficult for all of us because we weren't even able to reach some of the staff members. We went into the neighborhoods where we knew they resided, they weren't there. Tried them on the phone. Dr. Hendricks, you can't get them. But I can report that all of our staff members who were previously unaccounted for have now been located, they've been identified, and we have advanced the necessary relief to many of them, as I said, who some have to be living out of even one I think was even in a shelter. So these employees will be targeted in terms of the assistance to ensure that they can get up and running to do the work of the ministry. Now we recognize also that it is not just the physical damage, but there is a significant emotional, psychological, mental toll that this hurricane has caused, impacted on our people and on our staff, even those who have not been impacted by the hurricane physically. And so the ministry will be making available to our staff counseling services, particularly to those who have experienced, as I said, trauma or loss. And we've also introduced, or will be introducing, more extended flexible work arrangements to help the affected employees return to work gradually based on their circumstances and to give support to their involvement in community recovery efforts. I also want to note at this time, I know that there are several other ministries, departments, and agencies affected similarly. And it is important that if you fall in that category, you understand that you too are seen as high priority for the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. We are awaiting those lists, and once we receive those lists, we will similarly have that placed in the priority category. We need all of our government service up and running to serve the nation. Now, to move to the national relief distribution. As chair of the Humanitarian Assistance Committee, the ministry continues to advance Jamaica's national relief and recovery coordination. Let me give you some updated statistics. As at November 19th, in partnership with JDF and other stakeholders, we have conducted 138 air and ground drops to communities, or at least that number, that were inaccessible due to the flooding and the infrastructure damage. The ministry has dispatched close to 60,000 food packages, 59,320 at last count, more than 24 hours ago, and that information is still coming in. Mainly in the parishes, Westmoreland, St. James, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, Hanover, St. Anne, that are most greatly affected, Manchester as well. I want to note that this figure does not account for the entirety of all packages that have been dispatched. We have thousands more of packages that have been delivered, but perhaps not within the remit of our strict account in terms of the formalities. And let me also indicate that when we do our airdrops, the packages, for instance, that come from World Food Programme, are usually packages that account for feeding of a family of 3 for 1 week. And similarly, so we have moved from the urgency of just getting food to the people, and now to a much more synchronized strategic approach that will see us having a schedule based on demand, based on the scheduling reporting, based on assessments on the ground, based on collaboration with our partners, that will allow for us to be much more calculated. So you will see the figures fluctuating. Don't be despaired. That's based on what information we're receiving on the ground, and we're ensuring that where there is need, we can move swiftly to attend to that need. As it relates to the composition of food packages, and I raise this also, Paula, because this is something that I heard on the radio. And let me say, we understand that many Jamaicans who are not completely informed will draw assumptions. Sometimes those assumptions are not correct. But I understand why. I think the entire country wants everything to be done right now. And that's the way we feel as well. But let me bring some accuracy to the composition of the food packages. The food packages are containing protein sources, including canned meat, fish, and beans, as well as powdered milk. They also contain canned vegetables, staples such as rice, flour, cornmeal, and crackers, as well as essential condiments such as oil and sugar. Beyond food, we continue to provide hygiene kits, tarpaulins, blankets, mattresses, bottled water, solar lanterns, cleaning agents, tabletop stoves, all guided, as I said previously, by the needs identified in our field assessments. And let me give you an example. You may be in one area where a neighboring community, Minister Williams, requires food packages. But the other community, based on their circumstances, is not marooned by the increase in flooding, but needs cleaning agents, as in Catherine Hall, where their significant issue is that of all the areas in the country, what happened to them was just this influx of a mixture of mud and water that went into the homes, covered some of the vehicles. And so their primary issue now is water and cleaning agents, which is why the Prime Minister, guided by that data, has defined a particular effort that has been advanced to help that area. Before I move to household damage assessments, I also want to recognize the significant support from members of the private sector who have been assisting, have embedded themselves into all of our processes, from procurement to production to distribution, and who have been doing on their own as well. I want to say a big thank you to you. Your constructive support and criticism and challenging is exactly what we as a country need to work together to make sure that we get it right. The Prime Minister has also mandated that across government we use all of our field officers and assets to benefit the strategy and the effectiveness and efficiency of distributing. So our ministers of state, I'd like to say led by my Minister of State, who has been out there, have been out there supporting us and supporting the government and supporting our national effort. I think he was in Hanover yesterday, and I think he has been to also about 3 other parishes on the ground. As a matter of fact, that's where he was going today when we dragged him back to come and be here. He doesn't want to be in office. He's boots on the ground now. But I want to acknowledge them because, again, this is the time when across government we have to pool all of our resources towards this collective and singular goal, restoring Jamaica. Moving to the household damage assessments, I want to first indicate that the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, we lead a multi-sectoral assessment, and you can see it on the screen. several of the elements of that group. And those teams comprise state and non-governmental organizations. The household damage assessment, it seeks to ascertain the level of damage done, including the vulnerability and needs of the families, the loss of productive assets, the loss of household assets, and also the damage to the housing structure. But of course, the most important is the individuals that we are evaluating. Our teams conduct door-to-door household assessments, so it does take time. And that is why we are expanding the team and training persons. CTD Dare Williams has been training every day. I think we trained yesterday, and we're training today, and we're training tomorrow. And we continue to train because our effort is to expand the boots on the ground so that we can get as many assessments done as possible. We learned a lot of lessons in burial. And we were on the ground trying our best to utilize the tools that we had. Not saying that they were perfect, but in that imperfection, it has allowed us to revise our posture, and we have improved. And so with the work done over the last year in partnership, particularly with World Food Program, our director, Suzette Morris, who is our representative on the Humanitarian Assistance Committee, has been tirelessly working to make sure that we have a new, improved JHDyna tool. And when I heard that word, JHDyna, well, the phrase, I wondered, what? So let me break it down for you. Jamaica Household Damage, Impact, and Needs Assessment Tool. I think that was named by Nackley from Food for the Poor. Only he is so complicated. His mind is that complicated. It seems to be from Nackley. But it's an important tool. And it is a nationally recognized post-disaster needs assessment that is utilized by more than just the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. We have all of our humanitarian assistance partners that receive it, using it, so that we have one collective capturing of data that is cohesive. It captures information, as I said, on the damage to housing structures, impact on the household members, as I said before, the productive assets, immediate needs for relief and recovery. And the information collated from this instrument is very important. It is that data that is collected by the JHDyna tool that is then used to determine what support we give to you. So when we go into your community and walk on your lane, P.S. Jennings, and you're not at home, and your neighbor is at home, and your neighbor is assessed, but you're not assessed, your neighbor can be advanced. So what we're doing, based on the knowledge that we've gained from Beryl, in using this tool, is we also note as we go through the persons who are not there, and we are defining also, or developing also, or have developed, have been impacted. Now, this is an upgrade from our previous manual process. And what are the benefits of this upgraded, modernized approach? This approach allows for us to have significantly greater efficiency and accuracy in the collection process. It's not only faster because as you use the tablet or the phone with the application, it's immediately uploaded, and so it eliminates the need for that data re-entry. But it also eliminates the mistakes that come with having to move data from one place to the next. We are human beings. The tool is versatile, and it allows us now, Ms. Shepherd, to go out and to capture images. So when I previously would go and say to you in my subjective mind that there is massive destruction and then you see the picture, and it is a door that is missing. That now can be reconciled because the tool allows us to capture images and retain also GPS coordinates of the relevant locations. So as our logistics champions, JDF, always say, we need to make sure that we have the logistics intact. So we're doing that with this tool. We're not only capturing the data, we're capturing where we are, what's the location, and we have the images to know exactly what happened. In spite of all of the anticipated challenges that we certainly know will be presented by the magnitude of this disaster, which I have been advised, Dana, based on what I saw on TikTok this morning. And if it's on TikTok, it must be real, right? That's not true, kids. Just in case you just to be, have to remember I'm live. I'm hearing that the magnitude of the wind with Hurricane Melissa is the most intense recorded hurricane wind since the history of any hurricanes being recorded on Earth. So understand that what we are seeking to do as a collective, as a team, is unprecedented. And so far, despite all the challenges, as at November 19th, our team has completed more than 17,000 household damage assessments. And as we speak, we are right now doing more assessments. We have the expanded team, including staff and volunteers, targeting the assessments in order of priority. As I said, priority 1 is to assess the occupants of shelters across the country. 2 is to move to any unofficial shelters, because there are spaces such as churches and other homes where persons accommodated others. 3 is to move to the highly affected areas, particularly where you have significant amount of totally destroyed homes, and then on and on down the line, including our self-reporting. And that tool for self-reporting is first of its kind here in Jamaica. It's a web-based self-reporting tool that will be deployed through our website, mlss.gov.jm. We have been also proactive in addressing our connectivity issues. And if you have been out on the ground, for instance, I was out in St. Ann yesterday, and I would say to you, a wide mass of St. Ann has connectivity issues and electrification issues, and they're working on it. But because we anticipate those issues, through Starlink, we have acquired a number of devices that have been installed across all of our parish offices with the help of some of our stakeholders as well. And this has significantly improved Wi-Fi connectivity and the delivery of service. Of course, similar to what you'll find at many police stations now, where there's also Starlink, people will gather, and we try to assist the community as much as we can. As at November 19th, also 96% of the completed assessments have already been entered into our JHDANA platform, and so far they indicate 47,000 persons have been affected. Let me move quickly now to the team. The targeted support for our vulnerable groups. As you know, this is a people's ministry. We focus on our senior citizens, persons with disabilities, our beneficiaries for PATH and others. And so I just want it to be stated clearly that as we do our assessments, as we do the distribution, as we do any of our engagements, we certainly have as a high priority those vulnerable groups. The JCPD, Dr. Hendricks is here, together with key partners such as the Jamaica Society for the Blind, Jamaica Association for the Deaf, and the Combined Disabilities Association, Abilities Foundation, and others, have been on the ground conducting home visits, assessing needs, and delivering care packages to persons with disabilities and their caregivers as well. We want to assure the community of persons with disabilities that you remain a priority. And also your caregivers. Because many times, and I've learned that many times the caregivers are not brought into the conversation, but we highlight them and we want them to understand that they can contact the JCPD. There is a WhatsApp number. Let me give you 876-447-0444. That's 0444 or 876-299-7393. Or you can reach out to any of our social workers at our parish offices or through the JCPD. For senior citizens, quickly, the National Council for Senior Citizens has mobilized a network of seniors or your caregivers in need. You can get help through the NCSC directly, and this is the number for you, 876, and this is the number for you, 876-676-572122. That's 876-676-572122. Now, I'm winding down because we want to give an opportunity to others to be heard. But I do want to, before I move to the immediate priorities and the next steps, I want to make very clear that there is a policy from the Ministry of Labor and Social Security as it relates engagement in these communities. And that policy demands that we work with, consult with, coordinate with the stakeholders, including members of Parliament. And I say this again in response to issues raised and concerns. Is that Britney Spears? I like it too. I haven't heard of her well. But that policy is very important in terms to ensure that we mitigate and eliminate duplication and we advance and increase efficiency. So our parish managers will be consulting with members of Parliament. We'll be providing the schedule of the visits on a weekly and daily, if needed, basis, providing the list of persons that have been supported in whatever various way, and the assessments that have been done. And we would ask also that the constituency leaders, the MPs, also similarly provide information to us. Because as we share with you, so that you can know where to deploy your resources coming from government, and I say that because as we utilize the government's resources through budget to provide support in producing packages, members of Parliament have also received government allocation to do similar things. And so as we're doing similar things, we must synergize. It must be synchronized. So if members of Parliament are, through their private efforts, going to raise other funds, but it will help in the cooperation and the coordination, so we don't go into a community that you have already supplied with packages or given support. So we're going to balance, we're going to collaborate, we're going to work together to make sure that we achieve that collective goal of restoring Jamaica. Immediate priorities for us in the next 72 hours: 4. 1, sustain daily dispatches of relief supplies and replenish our parish stocks. And of course, we work with our JDF, particularly in that mission. We want to maintain the support with JDF in terms of the missions, particularly to isolated areas or areas that are hard to reach, such as where I went yesterday, with Minister Main, in one of his areas called Norwood, where there is, again, a significant large water body that has cut off an entire community. 3, we continue to prioritize support for seniors, persons with disabilities, pregnant women, infants, and other groups of focus for us here at the ministry. And 4, we are going to rapidly advance the completion of household assessments, particularly, as I said, in that order of priority, from shelters to hardest hit communities, with a strong focus now on expanding our team, on training persons, and on getting on the ground daily. Now, the next steps, as we stabilize the affected communities, the ministry will begin the transition from emergency relief to recovery. And I think the Prime Minister has gone far in explaining the move now from, I don't want to say sporadic, but from emergency to structure and strategy and system. And that's very important. And this is going to include us ensuring that we identify the persons who have suffered and that we design the structure for income assistance and restoration of livelihoods in partnership with the key public and private sector organizations and international development partners. We're going to make sure that we have a detailed schedule, not just shared with the MPs, but shared with the public once it is finalized. For those unable to attend in person, as I said, we will have that self-reporting option available. It's complete based on what I'm hearing from Ms. Morris, right? Yes, and so it's just in need of the gavel to be hit for it to move forward. In closing, I want to emphasize all assistance will be based on a verified need, and that all official information on relief and recovery efforts will be released only through authorized government channels. Why do I say that? Because